All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Mississippi Wrestling Network. I'm once again joined by my dear friend Joe Deere. How you doing today, Joe?
Man, I'm doing great. About to talk about my favorite sport, my favorite person, and man, Tim, it's been a minute.
It has been, man. It has been. We got the first half of the season knocked out already, and so we're gonna bring you guys a little bit of mid-season recap and some rankings. You know.
Yeah, I mean, there's been a ton of wrestling, a lot of great matches, a lot of good storylines, and I can't wait to catch up with you, man. Not only is this good for just the podcast, but I feel like we haven't talked about wrestling a lot, so I'm super excited, a little nervous.
Yeah, I know,
Get the
right?
wrestling off, but before we dive into this, I think you have something to say, don't you?
Absolutely. Ladies and gentlemen, today's podcast is brought to you by Conley's Landscaping in New Albany, Mississippi. They're ready to turn your dream backyard into a reality. Give Adam and the boys over there a call at 662-316-395 and make sure you give them a follow on Facebook. Check out some of their work. And if you're interested, hey, local guys, great guys, and they do great work. Give them a shout.
And I tell you what, you're showing me some videos right before we started, and they do have some pretty cool music.
It's awesome, man.
They have some cool videos. I'm not gonna lie. Their media guy is A1.
Absolutely, but they're providing them some great content to capture there. So again, follow Adam Conley on Facebook and Conley's Landscaping. Give those boys a holler. All right, man. Let's get into some wrestling.
All right, right on, dude. So I think the way I want to kind of talk about today is kind of just breaking up the state, north south as we do, and just kind of talk about who we think are like the top 5 teams in each region, and just give our reasons why. Kind of discuss the highs and the lows, maybe drop a couple honorable mentions here and there, and just kind of what we've seen throughout the season so far. Does that sound like a plan?
Absolutely. Yeah. Unfortunately, we haven't really got to see any of the South wrestlers and stuff. So, we're basically just going to be going off of results on that. Now, there may be some people that have some better insight that have actually seen them wrestle in person. And, hey, feel free to share that in the comments.
Oh, please do. So we're kind of, we're going to start in the South, and I kind of like, do the countdown, but normally let's just bury the lead here. And I kind of want to start at number 1.
Yeah.
Just, I think it's number 1's Van Cleve on my list. They have 13 studs, absolute killers, top to bottom. I think of that 13, maybe 7 to 8 of them have a realistic shot at getting to the finals, and about 5 of them are probably the favorites to win state this season. They've been kind of running it down there from what I can tell from the scores. And not only that, man, I tell you what, I've been seeing that Sutherland's been taking them to some really tough tournaments.
Very nice out-of-state work. From one wrestler in particular. I'll let you go ahead and give him an honorable mention.
Oh, for sure. So there's this tournament in New Orleans out of Brother Martin High School called the Trey Colada Tournament. And I heard about this tournament years and years ago from my college teammates from Louisiana. And, that's supposed to be one of, the premier tournaments, like the state before the state tournament. You know what I'm saying? I don't know too much beyond of what I heard just over the years, but Jordan Sherrod not only won his bracket, but one outstanding wrestler at the 215 weight class. So,
Bravo, sir.
Yeah, man, that is huge for him and his career. That's a huge resume builder, but also I just think it's huge just for our state, just showing that, with a little hard work, we can compete with anybody.
That's right.
And I promise you, I had to look into it a little bit. I saw pretty much all the best schools that Louisiana can offer, especially in that southern Louisiana area, they were there. And I know that there's some really good teams and really good wrestlers, and so that's a huge accomplishment. So shout out to Jordan Sherrod.
Very much.
And then they had some other place winners as well that placed at that tournament. So Van Cleve, they're running towards competition. They're wrestling some of the best that our area can offer down there. So shout out to them. And like I said, I've been kind of eyeing some team scores throughout the season, and it's not controversial to say that Van Cleve's the best team in the South, and probably I would go maybe, I don't think it's a bridge too far to say they're probably number 1 in the state.
Right. And, then, nipping at their heels, trying to at least, you have Picayune, you know. They're another one, man. They're, Van Cleve has created that gap, but Picayune's another one. They've got great coaches. They've got a great attitude. And, man, they got some boys in there that just scrap. They wrestle hard, they wrestle tough. Todd Brewer in particular, He's another one that expecting to see him, enter near the finals again this
Hmm.
year. And not his dad, Coach Brewer, man. He's doing a great job down there with him.
I tell you what, as much as I love Sutherland and Van Cleve might be the undisputed champs. I think Picking might be the people's champ. I love
Yeah,
Coach Brewer is such a nice guy, and those kids have been nothing but kind and polite and respectful. And they're also, they have some big names that I enjoy watching, like Todd Brewer, and then Tony Brewer's coming up the pipe, Strickland, Christensen, Perkins. So they got some heavy hitters on that squad, and I expect those big names to do very well. Coming towards the South half, and then as well as the state tournament. I'm looking forward to seeing their performance with my own eyes. And as a team, they're doing remarkably well. I think they won their Region 3 duels that they put on at Oak Grove High School, I believe. And so I think they're pretty solid at that number 2 spot, just from what we've seen so far. But
right.
there's still a lot of season left, so we should say that now. There's still we're only halfway done.
And,
So
and, and we know what the Christmas break does.
yes, sir.
And it's all on the wrestlers. Are they going to go for the fatty cakes, or they're going to get up and get that run in? They're going to get that workout in,
Yeah,
and try to stay sharp coming back in for the second half of the season.
Right. Also, like, who's going to train? I
Right.
think that's been kind of like the make or break point so far, and at least in the years that I've observed, where teams are absolutely running things, especially like here in the North. There's been teams that ran things from October till December. Then you see them wrestle in January, and they look like a completely different team.
Yep.
Whereas other teams take off after that winter break, and so we could see a lot of shifting in these lists
Yeah.
come January.
And at the end of the day, it's their kids still. I mean, and you kind of got to remember that, like, even when you're looking at college sports, it's like, yes, there's this expectation, but it's like they are still kids. They still feel that pressure, and they're susceptible to making bad decisions.
Right? Especially those who are cutting weight right now, where it's like, well, I got a whole break. Well, I'm gonna start piling up that plate.
Mm-hmm.
And anyway, so yeah, Picayune I got number 2. I think that's fair, and we might see some movement. But who do you got for number 3?
Uh, we were talking about it earlier, and our lists are pretty, identical based off of results and what we've been able to see. And so, I don't really have a lot of name dropping to do, but Ocean Springs, they seem to be, having solid at that 3 spot right there. They're picking up some key wins in some of these duels and quads, and I think they've done enough to deserve that number 3 spot as a team.
Oh yeah, and like kind of what I'm alluding to is that 2 and 3, we might see some movement there. Especially, Ocean Springs has some heavy hitters too. They got Maskowitz, Edoria, Taylor, Murphy. I mean, with those leading the charge, I mean that's not only wins but also probably bonus points, and so that could make a huge difference. Especially they might match up well against each other. So we'll see what happens as the season progresses.
And that's the hard part for me,
Mhm.
right? Is like, man, I don't get to make it down there and see that. So, like I said, you have some of these matchups that, on paper it looks like it goes one way, but you never know, especially with the way that you can run up the scores, these days with the updated scoring system. I'd just like to see more of the South wrestling.
Yeah. So that's Ocean Springs at 3, and I think that's fair. I think Picayune maybe will edge it out just because they have one extra big name than Ocean Springs has, but I imagine it'll be a tightly contested run for those two as we get closer to the state duels.
Right.
Then at 4, I got Oak Grove.
Right.
Yeah.
Silas Metz leading the charge down there. Team captain, I'm assuming. Again, they've got a couple that they're doing the winning and picking it up, but just based off team results that we've seen, it's like that. I'm right there with you. I feel like that's where they land.
Yeah, and again, I'm glad that they put on a Region 3 duels, so all the ones in those regions compete each other, because we got at least a good glimpse of what's going on down there. And Picayune and Oak Grove, they had a contestable duel. Probably it's one of those. If I had to guess, it's probably one of those things. If a couple matches went one way or the other, Oak Grove could easily have ended up on top. But I believe they dropped that one, which I don't want to jump the gun here, but I want to transition to St. Patrick's, where I got St. Patrick's as number 5, mainly because they had such a tightly contested match with Oak Grove.
Yeah.
So where again, if one match goes a different way, they might have won a duel against them.
Right.
So I think that puts them automatically in that number 5 spot, just because they show that potential.
Exactly. And and that's another one where it's like I wonder kind of what's going on with their roster as far as, how much are they able to fill all the weight classes, how much are they giving up, consistently, cuz they'll move guys around to well, one week they're missing this weight class, but
Hmm.
then they're not missing it the next week. So when you're just trying to look through it on flow, it's kind of hard to tell,
Right.
unless you spend hours
Oh yeah.
upon hours
I mean,
upon hours
that's just like
upon hours.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Sidetrack. Hate the new update.
Oh my
You
gosh.
think it's crazy you can make something less user friendly and worse than what it was, and
On
they and
with an
they
update.
and they succeeded it. Like
Yeah.
this flow merger has made track even less friendly.
Yeah,
Um,
I agreed 100%.
but anyway,
So that'll round out the boys right
yeah.
there at the
But hey,
South.
there's some honorable mentions I want to get out there.
Well, as far as teams, right?
Yeah, well, I mean, I just want to shout out as teams because again, I'm still kind of hazy on names, but I see you, Purvis. You know, you're a newcomer this year, and I see you must have some passionate coaches because you have a good media presence, and I see you guys competing well with some other teams, and especially the other new teams, and so it's tough, especially as this is our fifth year. It's tough to hop on the train now,
Right.
where it's like all these other teams have some years under their belt, but they're competing, and that also brings in a Meridian. I want to give a shout out to them. They're competing hard, and I've been texting back and forth with their coach, and I know he really wants to compete. He really wants to get his kids exposed to other talents out there. So I just want to give them a shout out. They're having they're getting introduced. They're getting thrown into the deep waters right away, but I think they're swimming.
And I just want to, and I'll give another one because and this reminds me because Meridian's one of those teams, right? Like if you look at like what can they do in football,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like they have a ton of talent, and if you can just get a couple of those to transition over, it's like they could immediately jump into that top five, top three, really.
Yeah,
Like Meridian is one of those schools, but there's another school like that that's flying under the radar, and I'm telling you, when some of these other bigger schools pick
yeah,
up, it's gonna be George County.
yeah.
George County's another one. They're very competitive across the athletics period, right? And I think once they get a season or two under their belt and they gain some interest in that school, that's going to be another one that you're going to be hearing a lot of in the next couple years.
Which I'm looking forward to it, man. I mean, especially I'm not a native Mississippian myself, so when I hear the lore, because I remember you telling me about George County, that's a school I never heard of before. But then when I brought it up to you, I go, oh boy,
Yeah,
I know about
yeah.
George County.
Oh yeah, man. I mean, they're super competitive in
Yeah,
football and baseball. I mean, they're always in the playoffs competing, and it's one of those teams. It's like kind of like Tupelo, right? When you have that consistently good football team, it's like okay, you'll be able to find a Caden Hill out of there,
yeah.
right? And they just come in and just blow up the whole scene for everybody. And those schools like Meridian and George County, they have those potentials to produce those athletes.
Hey, I'm very excited for that. So that kind of rounds off our boys. Again, I know that's probably not as in depth as you guys like to hear, but hey, if you have some more insights, send it our way, and then let's move on to the girls.
Yeah,
We'll start from number 5. Now we'll go to the traditional countdown. So at number 5, I got Van Cleve. They've been competing very well on the girls' front. They've dropped a couple duels. Based on just their social media presence, it seems like they might have some gaps in their roster this year. That's the huge difference maker between the previous season and this season. But there's clearly still a lot of great talent on that Van Cleve roster because they're competing very well. And I know, they're probably being led by Hannah Lindsay.
yeah.
And I know, again, I saw her wrestle over the summer, so I know she's doing very well in developing. But if you don't have the bodies to put out there, it's pretty hard to win duels. And again, I don't know this for certain, but it seems like that's kind of what's going on. But I have I mean, again, I know they're very talented. They had a great season last season, and they're like I said, they're competing well. And so I imagine they're still going to be. They're going to punch a ticket to dual state. I imagine they'll go deep, and we'll see where they go from there. Um,
Yeah, they're one of those teams that man, they always find a way to be in the hunt. No matter what kind of bumps or whatnot they hit in the road, they're always super competitive when it comes state tournament time and team state dual time. They're always competitive, and you can just never count Coach Sutherland him out, man. Like
Yeah.
he's always trying to think ahead and be ahead down there, and so. Yeah, I mean they're at number 5. That's a sleeper 5.
Mhm.
Yeah, and so at number 4, I have Oak Grove. They're being led by Miss Elizabeth Townsend, Ellie Townsend down there. and they have a couple other names that are doing good work, good wrestling, and just based off of results, that we were seeing, especially with some of the most recent results. I know they performed well at the Bear Brawl, and they've got some other stuff coming up. They did really well at the Magnolia tournament that they did last weekend. And so, I mean, they're going out and they're hunting the competition. They're wrestling out of state as well. Coach Lesdowski, uh, he's going and looking for the competition.
Yeah, man. I mean, they're in Kentucky right now.
Right.
As of this recording, I think they're in Kentucky right now, or this past weekend. And it's like, man,
Yeah.
that's dedication.
Yeah.
Traveling that far, and Kentucky's a lovely state, I tell you what.
Yeah.
But to go to those lengths to get that competition, like that's what's up. That's what you need to start climbing that ladder.
Absolutely, and that just goes to speak to the culture that he's creating. Down there, it's like, hey, we ain't running from nobody. Like, hey, if there's tough matches, and we're gonna go up there and compete, then we're gonna go compete. And I love to see it. I'm here for it.
Yeah. And then number 3, I am most interested in witnessing with my own eyes. I've just seen stats. Is Long Beach.
Right.
They are a new team this season, and their girls are having a heck of a time.
Ain't they though?
They beat Oak Grove, and fact check me. I'm pretty sure they beat Van Cleve by criteria, and so, to beat two teams that are kind of like the blue bloods in the girls scene, that's huge as a first
Yeah.
year already making waves.
Now I do believe one of the Coach St. Martin's coach, right? That's who is Long Beach's coach, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong.
I couldn't tell you. I know,
But I'm pretty sure who was St. Martin's coach is now Long Beach's coach.
I do,
Or it could be Ocean Springs.
I
But I'm
do
pretty sure it's St.
uh,
Martin.
I do know. I think the Ocean Springs coach went to St. Martin. I do know that,
Is that what it is?
but
One of those happened, but Long Beach has one of those coaches though. I'm pretty sure.
let us know.
Jinx.
But yeah, so I mean, again, this is all from the computer screen. So I look forward to seeing it with my own eyes, what they're capable of doing, what's going on down there. And, you're telling me a bit of the lore on the coast. And, if they're just like all those other teams you've been telling me about, I imagine they're athletic, strong, quick, and just hungry to compete.
That and you're going to get that with these coastal schools, especially once you get a Gulfport and a Biloxi, they join, West Harrison. Once all these teams start joining the fold too, like it's just going to get more competitive,
And so number 2.
All right, number 2, I have St. Martin.
Yeah,
Number 2. And a lot of that's just based off of the most recent results that we've seen. But now this one has probably one of my favorite, not really a dilemma, but I mean, it's fun for me. It's a dilemma for them. They keep going back and forth with Miss Green and Miss Jayla Anderson.
Yeah, Jayla Anderson.
Right? Now, from pictures that I've seen and from results that I've seen each one in that one spot on the podium. And, man, I need some video. I need to see these
For real.
matches.
That'd be one heck. Because I mean, if you've seen this show before, we've talked at length about the Green Girls and Jayla Anderson and a few others, but particularly the Greens and Jayla Anderson. That they're some of the best pound for pound girl wrestlers in the state. And so to finally have some high quality wrestlers in the same weight class competing against each other, like that's exciting for a fan for sure.
Absolutely, man. And it's like, you don't want to, there. To me, I like all of them. Like I don't want to see either one of them lose. But the fact of the matter is, somebody's gonna get that silver medal.
Yeah.
But I love the fact that neither one of them's accepting that.
Yeah. Yeah, it's contentious. And I tell you what, at the end of the year when you're going for that state title, it's gonna make it that much more meaningful.
100%.
Like, and again, this is kind of tacking on to conversations we've had in previous episodes where our brackets are just getting deeper, they're getting more competitive, and now those titles are just getting more. It just means more because you knew who you had to overcome to get it.
That, and I got to give credit to the girls as well, because the wrestlers for most part, do get to kind of choose a weight class, especially whenever you have that ability to drop 2 or 3 pounds, or put it on. You could either avoid competition or you go head first into it, and I love the fact that these girls are running head first into it.
I mean, just to kind of tack on to that as well, especially like in Jaylee Anderson's case, where she's on track to winning 6 titles.
Right.
It'd be really, I mean, again, it'd be really cool just to see, along that journey, she had to beat a state champion, to
Exactly.
get there. Like that's epic.
Right.
I mean, because there's a lot of, there's a lot of storylines throughout the history of wrestling, especially like the Midwest. Like in Iowa, there's been a number of times where like a kid in like the small division bumped up to the big division just to say like, hey, I won my 4th title in the toughest division that was. So like that's just cool as a fan.
Absolutely, man. And I'm here for it.
Yeah, and
I'm here
and of
for it.
course, St. Martin's led by, like I said, the Green Sisters, the Roccos, and they have some tough girls. They finished second at that Magnolia Invitational, and so I think they've clearly carved out that second place position because number one Ocean Springs.
Yeah.
We also looked at the team scores of that Magnolia Invitational. They won it by a significant margin, and I've been following their pages and some of the parents and their posts. They're doing very well
Yeah.
this season. They have some heavy hitters.
Molander.
Molander, Anderson, Broughton, and then I recognize they have an 85-pounder who did very well in this most recent tournament they went to. So I mean, they clearly have some talent on that roster, and it's very exciting that they just seem to be getting better.
Absolutely.
They're not just hanging their hat. Hey, we won state last year. That's all. Hey, we're good. No, they're still improving. They're still hungry. They're still working, and they're not slowing down. And so that's always cool to see. And like I said, there's still a lot of season left, so who knows what's going to happen. But I think I have a good idea between boys and girls who's going to be in that South half dual state final, and then who's going to make the deeper runs in the state tournament.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's on paper, it's been pretty clear cut. Like I said, as far as team wise, um,
Team wise, yeah.
the real interest is in the individual
Yes.
matchups. It's like that's where you're going to get some heartbreak and some controversy probably.
Right, yeah, and I do not feel qualified, both North and South. I don't really want to talk too much about individual predictions, but as far as teams go, I think we have a good idea.
Yeah, yeah, and so that'll do it for the South boys and girls team rankings right there. Um, let's start out with the girls in the North on this one.
All right, good deal.
All right,
so who you got at number 5?
Number 5, gotta go with math and science.
Hey, good choice.
Math and science. The wrestlers that they do have are doing well, but again, it's another one of those issues. You're not filling out a team, so you're gonna fall short. And
Well, I will say, the girls is a tough landscape because it really is, in some cases, a numbers issue. But math and science has done they are doing a good job. Let me just say it flat out across boys and girls. Their coaches did a great job recruiting. Their boys teams filled up. Their girls team is filling up, and I think they have one of the larger girls teams.
Yeah.
At least in the North half for sure. And then they're clearly being coached well because we'll talk about the boys here in a second, but when we first dueled them, or when I first saw them versus when the last time I saw them, they're jumping levels. And then our favorite girl,
yeah, Miss Nina Weinstein.
Nina Weinstein. She was tough last year. She is looking like she just jumped another couple levels.
Yeah.
Especially we saw her at the Charger Challenge most recently, and
she looks like a finisher.
Yeah.
Right. Like last year, like she would, be in some tough matches. One of them ended up, against Ellie Townsend. Ended up costing her. But this year, she is all about going out there and, hey, if she can put you away in 5 seconds, she's gonna put you away in 5 seconds.
She's wrestling mean, which that'll take you a long way. Just kind of overwhelming your opponents and just looking to score and being aggressive. And I just think back to, like I said, when I first saw her in Oxford's first event, and that's one thing I kind of like about girls wrestling. Beforehand they're smiling, they're having a good time, they're being super like innocent looking, and handshaking, complimenting each other. And as soon as that whistle blew, oh my god, just a freight train.
Yes.
Freight train. Mean look on the face, power half, no mercy, pin, and then right back to those smiles. Picked up her opponent. I think they even had a nice little hug, and it's like, she flipped that switch.
Yep.
and
And
so
finish with a heel click.
she's someone I'm really excited about watching. Just like last year, to this year, she's um, like I said, she's one to watch. Nina Weinstein.
Absolutely. Okay, so this is where we get into a little bit of controversy between our rankings
Hmm.
right here is in that number 4 spot. So I'll let you go with your number 4.
Yeah, number 4, I have Starkville. They have about 3/4 of a roster, which like I said is pretty large for a girls' team, and they like to rack up bonus points. They're really good at throwing big moves, and they've had a solid start to the season so far. Starkville has a new coach. Our old friend Ben Duclos from history's past is now heading helping them out, and it shows. You know, we see a lot of what he was really popular with and what he was really good at kind of transition into that team. And hey, they hit it and it works and it scores points, and then now that puts them in a ranked position.
All right, and so at my number 4, I have South Pontotoc. And I have them at 4 and Starkville at 3 because of some of the reasons you just hit on, right? Like they like to score the bonus points, and just as I got to see these teams at the throughout the season and at the Charger Challenge, I got a good look at a lot of the Starkville girl wrestlers, and man, they wrestle really tough. They're not gonna quit, and when it looks like they're down, they'll pull something out, and it just seems like I think that as far as like overall for the team, I think they have more top to bottom to be able to pull some of that off than South Pontotoc. Though South Pontotoc, where they're strong at, they're really strong.
Mhm.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, and I was talking with their head coach the other day. Unfortunately, I haven't seen South Pontotoc in person. I just again been seeing stats, and I talked to their coach a little bit, and she said that all their heavy hitters, they're all coming. They all came back this year, and they got some new bodies. And so I know they fill out the roster, and so not only do they have the talent that they already had, I think they reloaded with new talent, and they're competing well. And I know they've been hanging with teams that are higher up on this list, and so just by that logic, I placed them higher than Starkville. So our threes and fours are swapped, but I'd be curious to see what they look like come dual state.
Exactly. And South Pontotoc was another one of those teams that last year they wrestled better in the second half. The
Mhm.
girls team, which
Yeah,
it was their first year, and so we got to see it. But if we're going off of history, they are an even stronger team in the second half of the season,
right.
and that was kind of Starkville's downfall
Hmm.
was the second half of the season because you had
Yeah, right.
you had Rakyla Brown. She looked unstoppable until she didn't. And then it was almost like once she got beat, like she couldn't get it out of her head, and kind of just had a couple more missteps, throughout North Half, and then throughout the state tournament, and didn't get the finish she was looking for. But I'm gonna tell you what, man, I saw her at that Charger Challenge, and she looks about the business, bro.
Yeah.
So that's another one, man. Like keep your eye out for Miss Kyla Brown from Starville.
And so, hey, difference of opinions, difference of perspectives. I dig it. Again, none of the rankings are for fun, and they're not set in stone.
That's right. We're pretty much in agreement with our number 2 and
So
1. So who you got at number 2?
number 2, I got North Pontotoc, and so North Pontotoc's in a good position this year. They filled out a roster pretty well. I think they have about 8 or 9 girls, which again is pretty solid for the way the state of girls wrestling is right now. They're the returning North Half individual champions from last year. Now, girls did not have a North Half South Half duel in previous seasons. We will have one this season, which is very exciting for the growth and development of girls wrestling. But they won the individual tournament last year. They had some, girls that ran deep into the state individual tournament last year. Many of them came back, like Monifer came back. She's a returning state champion at 50, and she's at 52 this year, and she's looking solid. She won the Charger Challenge last weekend, and so they're looking solid. They beat South Pontotoc, and so so they're competing well. They're doing very well. They have some talent on that roster, so I think they're a firm second.
And they're one of the girls teams that's always brought the numbers with them too.
Hmm.
They've done a real good job of always, at least having a body for the weight class. And but by nature of that, it's like, well, that's gotten those kids experience.
Yeah.
And so now they're starting to reap the benefits of some of that. As some of their talent has graduated and moved on, it's they've actually got a couple years under their belt of, hey, just go out here and go
Right.
do this. And then now they're starting to figure it out.
And you got to shout out to Miss Moxley or Catherine Moxley out of North Pontotoc. She kind of heads the girls side of things, and she's clearly doing a good job of recruiting and retention because, like you're saying, they always have bodies and they always seem like they're having a good time, and they're making the girls are making it their sport, and so that's really cool. And it's really great that North Pontotoc continues to be a kind of a pillar in the north half.
That's right. But I mean, the team though on the girls' side is Oxford Chargers.
Yeah, I'll let you take this one.
They are. I mean, that's another one of the teams which this was my early season prediction. I mean, this is exactly where I expected you to be, based off of the names that I knew you had coming back with, Prashna Tamang, Izzy, Miss Terry
Mhm.
Talley. I mean, Nari Jones. I mean, you were bringing back a loaded squad, but you did a great job of keeping a freaking secret from me, Joe. You kept a secret from me, but hey, the secret's out now because I got to see this young lady be the most absolute animal. I'm just, it is what it is. The first time I saw that girl
Mhm.
blast double her opponent, I looked over and I was like, this ain't even fair. I told Ty now, I said, this ain't even fair. Like, it was amazing, man. I'll let you, give the story of this superstar, really.
Oh,
I'm just telling you, man. Like this girl, look. So she's new, and I mean,
yeah.
she still has some technique to learn. But holy cow, bro!
Mhm.
Just the intensity, the athleticism, just the will to win. I mean, it just it overflows when you see this young lady wrestle.
Yeah, so I can talk a little bit about Oxford. So yeah, I also have Oxford as number one. Oxford actually competed with North Pontotoc this past weekend, and Oxford pulled the win off. So I think just through those head to heads, that puts them solidifies that first place finish for now. We still have North half duels to look forward to, and you rattled off some good names, but I think we have Anna Grace Perez came back. She's doing a really good job at the lower weights. We have a newcomer, Josie Shaner. She's a seventh grader, and she's having a phenomenal first season, competing with girls much larger than her and much more experienced. And yet she is one of those who's just been training through our kids program and through the summer, and so she's doing phenomenally well. Um, and then of course we have Grace Brown and Gigi Winton. Both of them trained over the summer, and they've kind of climbed the ladder a little bit and reached new levels. Then then at kind of in the mid range, we have Annalyn Lopez, Tua Lopez. She's doing very well. She's a first year wrestler. She's developing at a good pace. And of course, we got Prashna. She's a returner captain this year, and she's wrestling well. I think she's starting to turn a corner, and she's starting to kind of pick up and wrestle how she did in the previous season. Then of course Nari Jones, and then Terry Talley. And so, I see improvement every day, and they're climbing those ladders. But I know you really want me to talk about Lauren Morris is her name.
Yes.
Lauren, she tried out for wrestling in the spring when I kind of took over at Oxford, and is after the first tryout, I wasn't really sure, because you never know when they come try out. It's like, are you going to be a part of this sport? Like, are you going to come back? But then, as soon as club season started, she was there, and she came to probably 80 to 90% of all of our club practices. And when I realized that, oh, she's going to stick around, I was counting the days till she made her debut. I was very excited to see what she can do, and she's meeting and exceeding expectations. And I can say this about all my girls, not just Lauren, but Lauren is certainly a standout in this respect. That they're just like Lesdowski said. I think back to our interview constantly when I'm at the practice room. These girls are so coachable. They listen. They're hungry. They want to win. They learn quickly. They pay attention. They're committed, consistent. And there's a few girls in particular, like Grace, Gigi, Lauren, Izzy. God, man, I'm going to list off my whole roster again.
Yeah. Again.
They make adjustments mid match. Like, that's been one of my favorite things about coaching them so far, is that while they're wrestling, they'll look to the corner, or they have an ear perked up for instructions, and they'll make these little adjustments. And so not only are they're adaptable, and so I think that's what's kind of cool about the names that Oxford has is that they're just adaptable, consistent, they work hard, and there's just a lot of talent to be had there. And but yeah, no, Lauren, I'm very blessed to have Lauren on the team. She's been a huge asset to what we've done so far. But certainly, we are a team at the end of the day,
Oh,
and
absolutely.
we're grateful to have her and all the other girls that we have who are contributing to our success so far. But yeah, there's still a long season left, and we still have a lot to prove. Um, and hey, like I said, we want to make a statement, or they want to make a statement this year. I got to be objective for the show for now. And another, if this turns into an interview about Oxford, I'll change my verbiage a little bit. But Oxford has, especially on the girls' side, they have something to prove, and they might have a chip on their shoulder, and they want to, have some success this year.
Absolutely, man. Well, like I said, you do have a pretty loaded roster on the girls' side of highly successful, highly coachable young ladies. But like I said, it just took me back because, like I said, you freaking kept it from me, Joe. I didn't know about Miss Lauren Morris, and holy cow,
Yeah.
holy cow, she's something to watch, man. I was very impressed, very impressed.
Oh yeah. I mean, again, I don't want to talk all night about my Oxford girls, but I'm very proud of them, and Lauren's been great, and keep an eye out for all of them. I mean, from 100 to 235. I mean, I think these girls have been putting on a show, and I think there's more showing to do, certainly.
Yep. All right. Well, that's going to do it for our girls' rankings in the North. All right. Now let's get to the boys. Now we'll just start at the top on this
I mean,
one.
I'd rather just get the honorable mentions out of the way.
Okay.
So my honorable
Well,
mentions.
hold on,
Oh yeah.
because
Oh my bad.
we,
Oh
we,
my
we,
bad.
we might have some controversy down
Okay.
there. All right.
So we.
So we'll start at the top. All
All
right.
right. Fair enough.
So unanimously, we both have Lewisburg as our
Yeah.
number one.
Yeah.
Just as far as a team, they're bringing in the wins and they're bringing in the points.
Yeah. I mean, objectively, Lewisburg's number one. They haven't lost yet to anyone in the state of Mississippi. Um, you know, they did suffer some losses from last season. Without Paul Harvey and Landon Trailer, and then Logan Bradley, of course. But this year they're still looking strong. They have the Hit Boys.
Davin Foyt.
Yeah, Davin Foy,
That
the
is
Hit
killing it
Boys,
this year.
Spence Wigley, and then of course, like I said,
Parker
Parker
Bradley.
Bradley. He's made his comeback, and there's a few new faces that I think are having a really good season so far. There's Ring at 150. He's had some up and downs, but every time I see him, he competes very well. Hunter at 215, or he kind of floats around those upper weights, but he's a strong athletic kid who's shown some promise in the sport. And so I mean they're a strong team. And I don't see them slowing down. And so I think they are definitely the number one team in the North. And I'm interested to see how this progresses through the rest of the season and how they compete against Southern teams. That applies to all the Northern teams. Like just like last season, it was really we had this huge divide between North and South because just logistically it's hard to compete against each other. And so that was really cool when dual state happened to see how we stack up prior to the state tournament. And so we really don't know how our northern teams are going to stack up against the southern teams. So I know Lewisburg is tough here in the north. I'm looking forward to see how they stack up against teams down south. And again, same with every other team on this list, and vice versa. I'm looking forward to when we start having a cross region competition.
Yeah, yeah, that's gonna be fun, especially seeing how last year went,
Mm-hmm.
and then seeing the success from both of those top two teams, Van Cleve and Lewisburg. Of course, both of those teams want to be, finals rematch, but there's some other teams that got something to say about that on the way up, and which gets us into number two, which I have Saltillo.
I also have Saltillo. I have a hard time keeping my bias in check, but hey, on paper, they have the wins, and so that puts them at that
And
number two spot.
yeah, absolutely, man. And just you have BJ Brandon Myhan. He didn't wrestle in the state tournament last year, but man, he's coming out this year and he's had a heck of a season. And Trip Nowlin, he's another one. Finding a lot of success. He's taken a few bumps particularly against Christian brothers.
Hmm.
But I mean that's tough competition.
Yeah.
Um, but then, man, I'll tell you, Ace McCracken, he's doing, as expected. But man, one of the wrestlers that I'm seeing improvements in, and I'm loving it, is Colton Morrow,
Hmm.
man. Like he's wrestling fantastic this year.
Yeah, on an individual level, I don't mind let my bias show. Yeah, Trip, Colton, Ace, and BJ are, we all knew they were going to be a solid,
Yeah,
have a solid season ahead of them. Yeah, Trip's only lost to out of state competitions. He's still looking sharp. I agree. I would say both Ace and Colton are improving. Their aggression's going. Their scrambling's getting a lot better, and they're competing very well. But of course, we have to brag about Brandon, because he took fourth place at the Dark Horse or the Black Horse Invitational up in Memphis. And if you remember one of our preseason episodes, we were talking about how tough that tournament is. And it is. It's a
yeah,
gauntlet. A lot of really good teams from the Mid South region goes and competes there. And Brandon Myhan, he wrestled a fantastic tournament, ended up with that fourth place finish. On that topic, on the Black Horse, we got to give flowers to Davin Foy
yeah.
made the finals. Rex Forsyth, Andy, and Shepard both placed as well. And so Mississippi kids are placing in these really tough regional tournaments that you are objectively tough.
Yeah, and that's why 2 years ago when we were talking about, hey man, you might take the beat and just go get a taste.
Hmm.
That way you know where you need to be, and you're starting to see which ones of these kids, all
Yeah.
right, they went up there, they took the lump a couple years ago, and they're like, all right, now I know where I need to go, and they, they've stick true to the guns and put the work in.
Yeah, and it's not a coincidence that the teams that or the kids that go out and seek competition are seeing the success. I know Lewisburg, especially last season, they went out of state to compete. I know like Rex, Ian, Colton, Ace, Tripp, Brandon, they trained at North Sit Premier. We went to the Deep South duels. I mean, we saw incredibly difficult competition. And now it's not surprising that they're having the success that they are now. And so, as a team with Saltillo, they're a really young team this year, but having four wrestlers that are almost guaranteed bonus points, I mean, realistically, in every duel they've had so far, it's between 20 and 24 points. They put those four put up on the board. It's pretty hard to lose when you have that reliability in your roster.
All right, yeah, I mean
And they have a
it
full
really is.
roster from 106 to heavyweight.
Yep, and that's something that they didn't quite have last year. They were missing some pieces here and there, throughout the season, and so, when you're not giving up forfeits and you've got some solid pillars, to lean on, it's gonna make you super tough.
Oh, for sure.
Make you tough. All right, we got the same at number three, so I'll go ahead. I'll let you say it.
Number three, I have Oxford.
Yeah, yeah. Which like again, based off of my early season predictions, that's kind of where I was expecting y'all to land.
Mhm.
You know, um, your Riley Urquhart's. You have another Urquhart, right?
Mhm.
That's came in the fold and has pulled off some wins for you
Yeah,
here recently.
yeah,
So it was those kind of performances that we didn't know about, right? And so what some of your newer wrestlers can bring into the second half of the season, it can be competitive for sure, but you've got guys that they're doing well, they're competing well, and as a team they're finding a way, right, they're finding a way.
yeah. And I hate to describe it as such, but this is a kind of a reload year for Oxford. They took some heavy like Jaden Gibson and Chris Perez and Luke Farr graduating. Those were some huge point scores for Oxford and kind of where the team was kind of built around. But at the same time, we still had some. We had we have Gavin Shannon returning, Ethan Urquhart, Braxton Roan, Riley Urquhart. Then our new faces that are getting in the roster because of the shakeup and the movement. We have Terrell Howard and Joe Cook, and we have some newcomers down in our lower weights that are doing very well. And so, I think the biggest challenge for that team in particular is just believing that they are a good team. And as we've gotten closer and closer to the belief that we're competitive and that we're a solid team, and now that, of course, this year in particular, Oxford had to have a Cinderella run in the football season, and so a lot of their football players couldn't practice, And so, for that first half, the first quarter of the season, Oxford was competing with, four gaps in the roster, and we were still winning duels. And now that we're full and healthy, we're seeing just a different team. And so that's pretty cool. Oxford has 3 losses on the year, twice to Lewisburg, once to Saltillo by a point. And so, we're right there neck and neck to climb these rankings. And, they have victories over, you know, the other teams that are ranked a little below on our lists. And so I think we're looking sharp, or Oxford's looking sharp, and I think there's a lot of talent, and I think the best is yet to come for that team. And I'm very excited to see what the postseason looks like.
Man, me as well, because this is where it's going to get interesting right here. So at number 4, I have Pontotoc.
Mm-hmm.
The Pontotoc Warriors, man, they're doing very well this year. I know they started out red hot. I think they were 5-0 as a team at one point to start out the season. I'm not sure about like the most recent data, but I'll tell you, man, they have Boston, Harley, the Russell brothers, Ethan and Wesley. I mean, they have some guys that are just athletic, but
Mm-hmm.
that man, they want to win, they want to compete, and they're finding success. They're
Yeah.
finding success, but they still have a couple holes in their roster that's costing them in some of these bigger
Mhm.
duels.
Yeah, so this is where things get kind of tough because I know the audience out there is probably thinking, well, Pontotoc beat Saltillo. Well, Pontotoc also lost to North Pontotoc.
Yeah,
So, and then Oxford beat North Pontotoc. And so the way that kind of, and then obviously Oxford lost to Saltillo by 1 point. So, yeah, that's where things kind of get complicated in terms of like these head to heads. And so that's where things fall. Obviously, there can be some movement. That's why I have Pontotoc ranked at number 5. But you're 100% right. Wesley's having a great season. Ethan Russell's having a phenomenal season. From what I hear is that he's pinning kids left and right. Um, and then Boston's having a great season as well. And I know they just took first at the Center Hill duels this past weekend. And so they're a really solid team and one that I expect will continue to have good sustained success. But when you really from my perspective, where this placement is entirely just that head to head with North Pontotoc v Oxford v Saltillo and how that kind of played out. Will there be some movement? Absolutely. I mean, I'm looking forward to if Oxford gets the chance to wrestle Pontotoc. That'd be great, and then that'll really enlighten us as to where the actual placement is.
right. And so like my placement with them is I'm looking at, all right, what with these being midseason rankings, all right, historically, how did Pontotoc wrestle? How does North Pontotoc wrestle after that? And then what is their upward potential for both teams?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, at this point, yes, Pontotoc dropped that one to North, but I think historically speaking, North Pontotoc tends to come out a little flat
Mm-hmm.
in the second half. Pontotoc didn't do that last year, but I think as a team, I think Pontotoc has more of that potential to cover that ground in the back half of the season than North does.
And I think that's an absolutely fair argument, and I would not even push back against that. I think yeah, historically, winter break is the killer of North Pontotoc.
Yeah,
Again, that's just historically what we've observed over the past couple of years. But what I do also want to say about Pontotoc is that last year, this it just is what it is. They're kind of on the bottom of the heap. Now we're talking like they're one of the best teams in the North. The fact that the fact that we're having this conversation shows that in year 2, Pontotoc is already making leaps and bound improvements.
absolutely.
And so I think that alone is awesome for a team to do within just a short amount of time. And we all know Wesley and Ethan and Boston and Noah Grayhouse, which unfortunately I don't think
Yeah,
he's
he's
able
not
to.
wrestling this
Yeah,
year.
unfortunately he's not competing this year, but I do hear he's trying to help and give back from time to time. And we know, as we've talked many times, having a quality athlete with experience in that room, it gets contagious because
Hmm.
their ethics, their expectations, the skills that they've acquired along the way, it diffuses amongst that team, and that makes everyone better. And I know firsthand because the Russell boys in Boston, they competed with North Sip at the Deep South duels, and they trained with us a lot. I know what those kids are capable of doing, and I imagine they're and also their coaches must be doing something right too.
Absolutely.
So good on Pontotoc. Like I said, I expect them to continue this trajectory of success. But like I said, I just cannot place them higher than number 5 based on how this first half has played out so far.
Gotcha. Well, I'll just let the cat out the bag. My number 5 is DeSoto Central. That's who I have. My honorable mention would have been North Pontotoc coming in at 6 right there. But DeSoto Central, just looking at them, it's they've lost some that they shouldn't have lost. But if you look at their team, like they are crazy athletic.
Yeah.
And the guys that they are, like your Rex Forsyths, like your Ian Shepherds, like they're going to these big tournaments. They're placing, they're finding that success, but then they're bringing that energy back to their team. And you could just see it, at that Charger Challenge. There were guys that wrestled up because they were in their corner. They're big on team support, and I just think that's another one of those teams. Kind of like with Pontotoc, that upward mobility, and I think they have the right guys leading that team within that. DeSoto Central's going to finish really strong in the second half of the season, I feel like.
Oh, yeah. I mean, their biggest monkey on their back. I had them as an honorable mention, mainly because they just do not have a full roster, and I think
Right.
that's going to bite them hard. But they are bonus point machines. Like
Yeah.
they're all just jacked, athletic kids who are also aggressive and want to win really badly. So,
Absolutely.
and so from what I saw at the Charger Challenge and what I know, because I mean, I got I got Rex, Ian, Liam, and then Jarvis Fuller. Those are kids I've experienced with and I've trained a lot. I know what they're about, and I know Ian is, from what I've understand, he's taking a leadership role in that team. And if I know Ian, he's doing a really good job molding and shaping and letting the team know like what he expects out of them.
I know what I expect out of Ian Shepard. Not to pull your freaking straps down. I know that.
Oh man,
You're
poor
welcome, Marissa.
yeah. And so, I think that gives them just having those veterans in the room is probably one thing that they do have going for them. And like I said, I was really impressed with the Charger Challenge performances. I was impressed. I mean, Rex is looking good. Liam's looking great. Liam's looks like he's turned a corner. He's looking a little bit less funky and more fundamentals. I mean, he still pulls those funky moves out, but he knows the timing a little bit better now. And then, again, so those kids are well. Then also, they got Shia Houston and then Kelvin at 132. Again, just very strong athletic kids who are they were having some success in previous season just from like raw brute force. This, from what I saw at the Charter Challenge, I'm seeing a lot more a technical side of things.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, DeSoto Central is definitely a contender in that sense. I mean, undisputed, they're going to have individual success as a team. But again, I think they only have like 9 kids on that roster, and so they're going to be giving up 5 forfeits potentially. I might have my numbers wrong, but last I checked,
But if you let them bonus point you,
right,
they'll get you.
that's true. So
And that's one of the things, like you said, they have that athleticism that if as the season goes on, if they can just add a couple more technical tools to some of those lower wrestlers on the roster, it's like, all right, they start getting these quick pins and stuff like that. It's like, hey, they could be a huge problem for some of these teams that kind of will play the long game with you. They'll try to burn the clock and and win some decision wins. Don't play it safe against that team.
yeah, like don't think I'm dogging them. I mean, they've beaten. I think they've only lost because they've beaten Center Hill, they beat Hernando, they beat Olive Branch, they beat New Albany, they beat Corinth. I mean, they're racking up wins. Don't get it twisted. Like as a team, they're having some success, but it's just when they bump up against like a Lewisburg or North Pontotoc or a Saltillo, where they have going up against 9 to 14 kids, like 5 forfeits. That's 30 points.
Yeah. I mean, that's why I got them at 5, Joe, not 3.
God bless.
But just being honest, that's just
yeah.
how it is. It's they're gonna get tough matchups when they go up against, in my opinion, any of these 4 teams ahead of them, just because of the numbers issue.
Now, what I will say, and I think our friends from the SIP podcast, maybe I think Tyler Knox would agree, is that a dual team isn't the same as a tournament team,
Right.
because they're heavy hitters. Which again, you have those four that we've listed or that I listed, and then plus the accessories that they have. As we saw from the Charger Challenge, I think they finished fourth. And so, like, out of what, 17 teams, so it's like they are a good tournament team.
Yeah.
That's undisputed right now, because they're bonus point makers, and so on the state level, like state individual tournament, heck, they could place top 10. I could see that. Heck, they could place top 5 maybe if they just rack out those pins.
Yeah.
Um, but it's just duels is tough when you don't have a full roster.
Yep. Very true. All right. So you got a couple more honorable mentions over there
Well,
for the boys?
I got honorable mentions, but I got to talk about my number 4 team again. I had Pontotoc
Okay.
at 5, but my 4 is North Pontotoc, and I mean, really, and they're being led by the Hale boys and Eli Sheffield. I think are their heavy hitters. You're guaranteed almost a tech or a fall or maybe a major, through those three. So like that helps them out a lot.
Yeah.
They look a little weaker and compared to seasons past. I know they don't have Warren or Levi Gooch or even Aiden Bates this season. It doesn't look like. I mean, heck, maybe they'll come out for the second half of the season.
And that's what I was talking about, with the upward potential of a Pontotoc and of a DeSoto Central.
Yeah.
Is because if you still had those three, it's like, okay, that right there completely shifts.
Yeah.
That's a whole shift in the dynamics right there, because those are three proven wrestlers, that do have state tournament experience and stuff, and it's like, but you just don't have that, and so you're gonna really have to be bringing up some people, to and you got to be dependent on them in a big way, especially in a duel, or trying to get your team ranked by the end of the season, to qualify for that. Like I just think that's where North Pontotoc's gonna struggle.
Right. And so for the fans at home, I mean, this year's a little different. Basically, to get to North Half duels, a team has to finish top 3 in their respective regions, and so North Pontotoc's in a tough situation because they got like Lewisburg, DeSoto Central, Pontotoc, so on and so forth, and so and I think they're going to re-wrestle in DeSoto Central in the second half, and so so again, who knows what could happen? I could see DeSoto Central maybe pulling it off. Maybe if Pontotoc and them wrestle again, maybe because North Pontotoc did beat Pontotoc, and so that's why I have North Pontotoc above Pontotoc City, and they also beat South Pontotoc. So as of right now, the recording of this, I think if my numbers are correct, they're sitting probably in second in their region. But also North Pontotoc hasn't had very many matches yet, and so we'll see what happens come January. Really,
yeah. Again, it's always that North Pontotoc asterisk in that second half of the season. It's like you can't afford to come out wrestling flat. You just can't. Like if they are currently standing at number 2, it's like you better hold on. And be expecting to wrestle hard, because that's what everybody's going to be gunning for. They're all going to start paying a lot more attention to them points, right? And they're going to be looking for that qualification. And hey, if they got to move bodies around and do this and do that, it's like, hey, that's the name of the game, So just be ready for that. You should be expecting that. If you know that you're in that situation that North Pontoc's in, where you're against the numbers issue.
Yeah.
And
that's the crazy part about this region play this year is that Pontotoc, DeSoto Central, North Pontotoc, one of them might not make it to state duels.
Exactly.
And so it'll be curious to see who ultimately makes it. Like I said, this is just one of those things where we'll see. I know on the other region, I think it's kind of just set in stone at this point. Maybe we'll see what happens if there's another matchup between now and then, but at number 1, Saltillo, 2, Oxford, 3, Tupelo. I think that's probably where it's at. That's where it's at right now, and that's probably where it's going to stay. We could see. I mean, again, I guess we'll see in time what happens. But in terms of the other region, I know obviously Lewisburg's at that 1 spot. We'll see where that 2 and 3 spot is. Like I said, by the end of January. I'll talk about MSMS real quick. I'm extremely, extremely, extremely impressed by Shaw Pruitt and Enoch Clarity out of MSMS. Shaw Pruitt, I had time with him at South Pontotoc. He's always been an absolute unit. He's just been a little too enthusiastic with his wrestling, let's say, and a little technically deficient. But now that he's starting to put moves together, now he's starting to calm down. He's a contender, and he's one big move. I mean, he and BJ have been wrestling a few times. Then at the Charger Challenge, he had BJ on his back, and you know he's one big move away from beating anybody, I think. And so Shaw Pruitt has definitely improved tremendously. I think Enoch Clarity might be the most improved wrestler I've seen.
Yeah.
He's looking really sharp. And I know he gave Luke Hale a lot of grief at that Charger Challenge, and he's just looking a lot technically sound. And he has a win over Porter Vaughn this season. So Enoch Clarity's looking really good. Out of Hernando, I got a shout out to Landon Jefferson. Um, I've only seen him in person once at the Arlington preseason tournament, but I'm thrilled with him because he finally has the recipe. He's a jacked, athletic kid where it's like he's figuring out that all I gotta do is lower my level and blast double, and no one can stop it. And I've been telling him that forever. I'm glad that he's finally putting that together, and it's working. And then of course Noah Glosson, their heavyweight out of Hernando, he's having a great season.
Yeah, man.
Um,
I got to see him at the Gatorade Fieldhouse at the Madness
mhm.
tournament. Madness. And I mean, hey, he looked good. He's wrestling well. He's moving well. Looks like he's been, he put some work in the off season, and I'm excited to see how he finishes out the second half of this season for sure.
And then out of Center Hill, there's this kid Williams. He's wrestling at 150. He's kind of a newcomer to the scene, if to my understanding, and he's having a heck of a time. I know my first exposure to him was at the Charger Challenge. I know I've been seeing him in some brackets and hearing about how good he is. I remember looking at the finals match, him walking out. I turned around, I turned back, and he's getting his hand raised. And so he pinned this kid in like 30 seconds, and it's a kid that beat Trip Nallen in the semifinals. Now Trip has beaten this kid twice in head to heads, but you know, for a kid that can just take this Tennessee kid and pin him in 30 seconds, I mean, clearly you have some ability. And I hope to actually see a full match with him in my own eyes soon, maybe at the Center Hill tournament on January 10th. But I know Center Hill has a good one in him. And then John Miller, he's a kid that I saw a lot last year who I thought had a lot of potential. I hear he's back to wrestling and he's having some success, so I'm looking forward to him. And I would be remiss if I just didn't give a shout out to all the Premier boys. Like Luke Hale, Carson, North Pontotoc, um, Grayson out of South Pontotoc, and the Saltillo boys. You're all having a fantastic season. The DeSoto Central, you know who you are. So far, you guys are having a great season, and I look forward to seeing what that second half looks like. I mean, do you have any final thoughts?
Yeah, I have one honorable mention. KJ Edgston
Oh, dang it!
out of
Yes,
Corinth.
yes, thank you.
Uh, you know, I kind of knew, he had a jiu-jitsu background coming into last year as a first-year wrestler, but technically he's looking leaps and bounds better as a wrestler this year, and he's starting to figure it out, and he's looking stronger as the seasons went on, and I really think he on an individual level he's going to shake some things up coming in the back half of this season right here. So that's one to watch out
Dude,
for.
the amount of times I've driven home after doing one of these podcasts, been like, crap, I forgot that kid. I'm so glad you mentioned KJ. KJ is looking really good.
Yeah.
He has a lot of natural abilities and talents that he's putting to use this season, and I hope that he just keeps on climbing. I saw him this past week, and he's looking. Every time I see him, he's improving. So, oh, there's another kid. Thank you. Now that we're on the topic, Jaquan Brown out of Tupelo. I wasn't sure if he was going to wrestle this year. He made his return this past weekend. He's wrestling at an appropriate weight class. He looks pretty technically sound. It's very clear that he's just getting back into the swing of things. I think he'll be a second half of the season kind of wrestler. I expect to see him back to form. Caden Hill's looking really good. He put on some weight, but he hasn't lost a lick of speed. So he's still, I mean, looking as dominant as ever. Yaman, 165. He's looking really good. I mean, I remember watching him, I think 2 summers ago at a summer tournament, not thinking much, but he's looking like a real contender this year. He has some really nice throws, really good ability, really good movement. Jake Stewart, God bless. See, now he's all these kids I'm forgetting about.
Yeah.
Jake Stewart, boy, you're looking good. I mean, I can't wait to watch that 113 state bracket. Because, like I said, Jake Stewart's looking really solid, looking very technical, sound very polished. And I think that should be it. Yeah, I think that's
Yeah.
everybody. I think that's everybody.
We'll call it there. That was plenty honorable mentions. Yeah. But hey, but that comes with, hey, we are seeing improvement, in these guys, and we want to give them their credit. We don't want anybody to feel like, oh, we're leaving you out on purpose. It ain't that. It's just, we came into this podcast, to talk about the teams, and so, as we were going through the honorable mentions, we started hitting some of those people, but
Everything's off the dome here, people.
it is. It is. We do, our little bit of our research, beforehand, but I mean, my notes are my rankings. I mean, that's what I have right here in front of me. And so, but we do want to give, all the credit to, all these wrestlers that are out here, wrestling hard, representing for their teams. Hey, don't get lazy over Christmas. Don't get lazy, right? Because we want to see some good wrestling the second half of the season.
And hey, the 2 pounds, it's here. You got that 2
Yeah.
pound allowance.
Yeah. So hit the weights, not the cakes. Hit the weights, not the cakes, right?
Put that on a t-shirt.
All right. Well, Joe, always a pleasure, brother.
Of course, man.
Ladies and gentlemen, make sure you give this a like, comment, share it with your family and friends, and let us know when you want to see us, right? We've been trying to get out to some of these places and do some of these live streams. Internet has been our kryptonite this year. So if you can get us some internet and you want us to come get a live stream in, reach out to me, reach out to Ty and Allen, and we'll see you then. Appreciate you. Peace.
Later.